Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. You join me in a 1985 Mercedes 123 station wagon 250D. Oh yeah, it's a lorry. And take a look at the interior just off the bat. This is this is not the green hell. This is quite the opposite, because this is very big and very slow. The green hell is very big but very fast. But still, this is just a really cool interior, and all interiors on these W123s are just so nice in my opinion, and so well put together. And we have liftoff. I don't know how much the microphone will pick up, but this car's not mine. This belongs to a family member who had a couple of these in the past also. I did some work on one of them many years ago. He got a great taste in cars and got a lot of different fun stuff. This is one of them. The reason why it's here is because there is some stuff that is not working on it, and he asked me if I had some time to take a look at that stuff. And there's multiple things, and one thing that you can maybe hear is an exhaust leak, making it a bit more lorry-like than it really had to be. Apart from that exhaust leak that I need to fix, there is also a problem with the SLS system. The SLS system is completely disengaged apparently. He bought it without a functioning SLS system, and he thought it was removed, but when I took a look at it last time he was around, it turned out that it seems to still be there, everything, the pump, the reservoir, the things in the back and all that. So maybe it's just not filled, or maybe that's probably something else wrong, but it's very low in the rear end, and it's a bit hard. So he wanted me to take a look at that. I'm not sure it will be possible to fix that within a reasonable budget, because it's an expensive system to fix if it needs parts at least. But the other thing is quite serious. Maybe at least it needs to be fixed. When he visited me last time, I took it for a drive, and he was complaining about it being a little bit slow, which is not a surprise, because the 250D is not a speed machine. But the problem with this was that he thought that the engine sound was picking up, but the speed was not picking up, especially at very high speeds. So I took it for a drive and then noticed, and let's see if it still does that. I'm pedal to the metal right now. It actually doesn't do that right now, but it was slipping badly last time. I'm just going to try to pick a lower gear. Nope, it's not slipping right now. That's actually good news, because I have reason to believe that the clutch is worn out, but there is also a possibility that the clutch release mechanism is not working as intended. That could be just the same, because if it's something to do with the clutch release arm or the clutch release bearing or anything in there, it's a clutch out job anyway, and it would be stupid not to change it. But there is also a possibility that I'm pretty sure it's hydraulic on these cars, that the hydraulic system is not functioning correctly. Because another thing I noticed is that the clutch biting point is really high up, and if I just touch the clutch, can you hear that? I just dabbed the clutch and it instantly started to slip. But let's just try again. Full throttle, nothing happens. Full throttle, a little dab, and it slips. So there's actually a possibility that the issue is with the hydraulic system that operates the clutch. For instance, if the rubber line going from the slave cylinder to the master is clogged, the pressure won't release back into the reservoir by itself, and by that keeping some pressure on the clutch diaphragm that could be causing it. So if I'm really lucky, it's a matter of maybe changing that rubber, maybe just changing the actual fluid in there, because if that's caked with a lot of stuff, it won't drain back as easily as it is supposed to. That's also a possibility. I'm prepared to change the clutch. That is actually what we talked about, but of course I'm not going to change the clutch before I know that it's not something else. But right now I'm just going to enjoy this car. It's proper fun to drive. It's nice to be back in one of these with an actual floor, because as some of you might know, mine is missing that said floor. I got a 300 turbo diesel, which is completely rotten, unfortunately. It's really a nice sign that I can't make it slip unless I dab that clutch pedal. That's really a good sign, because last time I drove it, it started to slip when I gave it throttle, especially uphills. It's not doing that right now. So maybe we are lucky that it has freed up a little bit by itself. Who knows? Another thing that I'm going to take a look at is water ingress. Would you believe it? This 123 got a problem with water in the cabin, which is the reason why most of these in my parts of the world are extremely rotten, and you won't notice before they just disappear, because there's a lot of insulation and sound deadening and stuff underneath the seats. So when you have a leak, you will have a lot of water down there without really noticing. Just gonna floor it in second gear. It's not slipping, and that's really good sign. But when I change the gear, it slips unless I give it just a second to settle in before flooring it. It really points towards some kind of stiffness in the release mechanism. So let's take a look at this car. Firstly, the interior. It is in really decent condition in here. There's some wear on the armrest, but other than that, the interior is decent. The floors are without carpets because of the mentioned moisture problem, but it looks pretty fine down there, and it should be. It is bought as a pretty restored car, but these cars' ability to hide rust is pretty remarkable. You just never know before you start poking around with these. The rear seats in good condition, and then this got the rare extra seats in the rear that I'm going to show you. We also got a brake issue, probably low fluid, I'd say, because I'm parked on an incline, so probably it's just low on fluid. When I release the brake, it stops, and that will also push some brake fluid back in the reservoir, so I think it's low on fluid. We're going to check up on that. But this got the rare optional extra that if you suddenly drive in an area where you don't feel safe to refuel, you can just go ahead and just push it a little bit up, give it a little bit more fuel. It's missing the plastic cover, but other than that, it's pretty complete and in great condition. Let's take a look at the outside. Take a look at the inside of the doors. The condition seems to be really nice. So here it is. It's a bit dirty, but other than that, it is in really decent condition. Not a lot of rust visible. There's a bit of surface rust on that down there, and a little bit on the notorious jack points. That's an area that they really rust, and the problem is that when you see rust, it could be really bad because it comes from inside. But it looks to be decent, at least. That's a bit of a scratch down here, but other than that, it's really in good condition and pretty straight. There's been a patch made there with filler. These are the cool rear seats. I want to try to sit there one time. It's got to be an interesting experience watching back when driving. It's got a trailer hitch. Envious. Same story on the other side. Really nice condition. It is pretty straight. Well, most of it is pretty straight. It's a nice car. latch. It's not working as it is supposed to, so it's very difficult to open. There we go. That could be nice to fix. So this is the small 4-cylinder diesel engine. It looks really small in there, especially compared to the 300. But there's a lot of room to work on. But other than that, it really looks similar to the other one. But the amount of space back there at the transmission side. One thing that pops into my eye straight away is a lot of oil spillage right there. So it could actually be oil contamination on the disc also. It still doesn't really explain why it's only when it's depressed the clutch. But I guess there is a clutch mechanism somewhere. We're gonna take a look at that on the lift back home. But also in here, it looks in decent condition. There's a bit of rust right there, very little. But these areas are very often rusty. And then down here is a common place for mud and stuff to pile up, and therefore it will lead water into the cabin. But it looks decent in there. Very simple setup, all in all, and very nice condition at first glance, at least. Let's take it back to the garage. So let's get this car up in the air and check the first thing, the clutch. I think that will be the goal for this video, to either fix that clutch release thing or decide to change the clutch. We'll see. Okay, so the first problem was the exhaust leak. And I already found that because that's pretty obvious. It's right there. There's a big hole. He wants me to try to patch it up. I need to check if that makes any kind of sense, because yeah, I think it will make okay sense. It's actually, there's the hole right there, but it's worse up here. But if I could just splice in a piece of pipe right there, it would be decent enough, I think. There's more life in this at least, so a small patch would probably just be fine. The next thing I want to take a look at is the SLS system, because as mentioned, I did take a quick look last time he was here. He thought that it was removed, but I think most of it is there at least. There's the nitrogen ball up there in the pipe. And oh, this makes sense, because one thing that was puzzling me was he told me that it was harsh over bumps. And that didn't really make sense, because the self-leveling system is just something that levels the car. The springs should be the same no matter how much, no matter where it rides pretty much. But take a look at these rubber things. They restrict the travel of the spring, making the spring less springy. So it's probably put in there to avoid it bottoming out and hitting the inner wheel arch with the SLS system not working. So yeah, there's a split boot also. But there is the height corrector thingy. Everything looks to be in here. I did check in the engine bay that the pump also seems to be there, and the reservoir is there. It's just empty. So it's probably, if we are really lucky, it's just a matter of filling in some fluid, but it doesn't make sense that it's completely dry. So it's probably, something is probably wrong. If we are unlucky, which is very likely, the nitrogen has left the building and it won't really work. That will be really expensive if that's the case, but yeah, we'll see. So that's that. Let's take a look at the clutch. I never changed the clutch in one of these, but at first glance it looks to be really easy. There's a lot of connections and stuff that needs to be removed, but the gearbox looks small and the access seems nice, because my lift is not ideal for this kind of work. Right up there is the clutch slave cylinder, and my hope is that it's binding up. It doesn't look to be a flex hose actually, it looks to be a solid line. But I'm just going to pump the clutch a couple of times, and then I'm going to open the bleed screw afterwards. And if fluid spits out, then we know that there is pressure that can't escape back, and that will explain the clutch being weird. So I'm going to just try that. Yeah, there's no pressure escaping quickly, at least. I just realized that it could also be a problem with the clearance of the actual pedal. If the pedal doesn't really release the clutch master cylinder, it will of course keep some pressure on applied to the system. So I'm just going to check if there is any clearance specification on the pedal side and if I can adjust it before doing anything more down here. I really hope to just figure out that it's a problem with this clutch release mechanism instead of the clutch. Otherwise I'm just going to have to change the clutch. Okay, so I just decided that showing this on video live will be impossible because of room. But I'm gonna try to do some adjustment up there behind all that. Let me see if I can just get a shot of it. Yeah, I won't be able to. This right here is the master and this is the pedal. And at the connection there is an eccentric bolt that I can adjust. And I'm gonna try to adjust that to give it some free play, because currently there's no free play. That could be the reason why it doesn't really want to let go, because it maybe still is applying a little bit of pressure. It could also be because the clutch is worn and there is no longer anything to give. But I'm going to try to adjust it to give it some free play. So after a bit of fiddling, I have now adjusted it and given it quite a lot more free play than before. I really wish I could show you. That thing up there. The big nut is the lock nut, and then you can spin it around, and it's eccentric, so it moves the point. And now I got a lot more free play, maybe even a bit too much. I just went for maximum free play to test my theory. So the clutch biting point is definitely going to be slightly lower, which is fine. And hopefully it will release completely quickly. So I'm just going to take it for a quick spin. I'm not going to bring you along because we just drove it. You won't be able to see anything different. But I'm just going to check if it still slips if I dab the throttle, or if it grabs a little bit quicker. And if that's the case, then I won't change the clutch, at least not now, because then it was just misadjusted. Nope, it's the same, unfortunately. If I really floor it and change from third to fourth, it will just slip until I release the throttle pedal. So I'm pretty sure there's no way around getting the gearbox off. It has been slipping for a long time, so I think it's time to change that clutch and check that everything else in there is all right. So I'm going to order some parts. So in the next video, I will most likely investigate that SLS system and fix the exhaust. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.